Every company has difference makers, the people who go above and beyond what's required. This podcast is dedicated to the people who challenge the status quo and make good companies great. Today, we're sharing one story from one company in our effort to inspire others. Welcome to Difference Makers. Today's episode is titled Mortgage and Finance Young Guns. It's been calculated that the average age of a loan officer in this business hovers in the mid-50s. And conflicting directly with this is the fact that industry fintech and automation combined with smart apps are growing at a rapid pace, and the industry simply needs to start training up younger people. Unfortunately, it's a very long startup phase to get a book of business built in this business, and it takes a commitment from an age demographic that some would say is anything but patient. Today's young people are growing up in the instant gratification and side hustle economy for full-time pay syndrome. They want it now, they want it easy. This makes my guests even more interesting to talk with today. I've known both of these young men from the time they were playing t-ball at the local baseball fields, and I've had the pleasure of coaching them to a state championship in baseball, 13 and under team. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Both today are in their late 20s, now very successful, and both came into the mortgage business with deep family values and a work ethic grind that's uncommon. To my right is Greg Matthews, loan originator at Certified Mortgage Planners, a very successful mortgage brokerage located here in Central Florida. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Jim.
To my left is Mike Boghos, Wholesale Mortgage Account Executive with Amerant Wholesale, which is a division of Amerant Bank. Mike?
Thank you.
Mike is my son, yes.
There is a resemblance. We see.
Is there a slight resemblance? Yeah, that's what people tell us. Poor kid. So I've talked to some very interesting people doing this podcast, and I have to tell you, I've been really looking forward to this one in particular. So I want to kind of get right into it with you guys. We'll go back in time as we get through this deeper into the podcast, but I think at least initially, I'd like to know kind of for the people out there that are trying to consider maybe where they want to go, which way they want to go, with what career, and maybe they're looking at the mortgage business right now. I want to try to give them some sort of advice, message, hope, whatever it is that you guys found, that's formula of success that you found, and maybe pay it forward a little bit. So with that, what did you study in college, Greg?
So I was a business major. Obviously, I played baseball in college. I was pretty focused on that, and I got a business degree on the side. I say when I was so focused on baseball, but business with a concentration, I guess you'll say, in finance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Mike.
Same thing. Business finance was my major. Also was a baseball player, but had a lot of injuries, so got through my sophomore year and had to hang it up. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted business. So I just got in and did general business at first and realized, I took my first business finance class, and it actually had how to calculate a mortgage payment in there.
Oh, yeah? Well, that was the big thing that got me into mortgages is we didn't study it in college. I did everything else, stocks, bonds, all that stuff, and retirement, but we didn't go into mortgages. So that was part of, which we'll probably get to, was an inclination to me get in the mortgage business.
What gravitated you to the mortgage industry, Greg?
Yeah, it was simply I studied in college finance, and we literally went through everything that a financial advisor would do, a retirement planner, a business owner, an entrepreneur, like cash flow analysis, all these things, and I never went through like a mortgage amortization schedule. And I was like, everybody in America, the American dream is I want to own a home.
Right.
So I was like, this isn't really a product that I have to go out and sell. It sells itself. Like everyone wants this product. They want to get a house. They have to get a mortgage. So right out of school, I applied to a few different jobs, and I had an offer on the table from Wells Fargo as a mortgage processor. I actually had an offer across the street here at ADP as a payroll specialist, a few other things. And I was like, if anything, I didn't know which one to pick. They were all kind of similar salaries, similar job titles. Like, if anything, I'm going to learn, about mortgages for my own personal life. So I dove into that, and then the rest is history.
That's interesting because really there are very few people that get into the mortgage industry on purpose.
Right.
It usually is some way you tripped or fell into it, and then you go, hey, there's money to be made.
Right.
Mike, how'd you get into the mortgage industry?
I would say I was kind of born into it. I actually came out of college wanting to be a financial advisor, but I did an internship, and I found out I didn't really like it as much as I thought I would. So came out of college, graduated.
What didn't you like about about that? What made you feel like, hey, this maybe isn't for me?
It was just more head in the books. You know, the consultations that they did were hour and a half, 2 hour long with certain clients, and you have to understand the stock market and things like that. And I didn't want to get too much into that. I wasn't really interested. It wasn't something I was that piqued my interest, I guess you could say. So I came out of college, and I remember coming to you saying, I don't know what I want to do. And you said, well, I have this new startup company that's looking for some young guys that are hungry. And I said, well, let me go give this a shot and see how it goes. And got my first job on the lock desk in secondary, and the rest is history.
Yeah. So interesting, you both started on the ops side.
Right.
Yeah, which gives you a unique perspective on the sales side, doesn't it?
So yeah, on top of the funny part of, you know, coming from Wells Fargo was that I got independently licensed, and then I remember talking to Mikey about LoanWise. You were over at LoanWise, and then I came in to see you, Jim, when I got licensed right after I had an interview at a local place here. And I remember you saying, like, hey, man, I got you. Like, this is where, you know, don't worry about that spot. I'll set you up with the right people. And then I think you were actually kind of in the interview process or starting that as well, right? Yeah, it was kind of the same time when we were making that transition.
Great training ground, great people over there at CMP. They really believe in bringing in the younger guys and bringing people up in the business. So much hats off to those guys, BJ and the team over there. So how did you move over to the sales side? Mike, I'll let you start. How'd you start? Why did you start on the sales side? How did you get there?
So a few reasons. One, I was on the lock desk, like I said, over at LoanWise, and they ended up getting merged. So we went with a new company, and secondary was now based in Maryland. So I saw the writing on the wall. I'm going to be remote, and you know, I can only take my career so far being a remote worker. I'm going to have to move to Maryland, or I'm going to have to find another opportunity. In Orlando, there's not a lot of opportunity in secondary, and to be honest, I was getting kind of bored behind the desk all day, just accepting locks. And eventually I did the bulk bids on the trade desk, which was cool, but that also got boring for me. It gets to a point where you do it so much, it becomes almost like just repetition. Every day was pretty much the same day, just different loans coming in. So I knew I wanted to get out of that, and I wanted to provide a better lifestyle for me and my wife, and be able to provide for a family one day. And so I knew the sales side has a lot of opportunity, and I just wanted to give it a shot. So then, like Greg said, we got CMP, gave us our first opportunity, and I'm forever grateful for them because I learned a lot from them, and I wouldn't change that for the world.
Of course, every step leads to another step, right?
Right.
So how did you move to the sales side?
Yeah, it was just, I was very lucky. When I got into Wells Fargo as a processor, I worked there for about a year, and I had a mentor there actually that was a processor as well, and she had been in the business like 10, 15 years, and she kind of saw some potential in me. She knew I had just graduated college. It was my first job, and she was like, Greg, you would be really good as a loan officer on the sales side of things. So she really kind of pushed me. She was the one that kind of pushed me to get independently licensed. I worked with her kind of as a loan officer assistant. So it was baby steps, you know, like you said, one step leads to the next. So it was like, I learned processing, then I was a loan officer assistant where I was starting to originate, but I wasn't really going out sourcing my own deals and just kind of being like thrown out to the wolves. And so I got that experience, and then I slowly transitioned into, you know, the sales role of being a full-time loan officer.
I think you guys saw what salespeople make and jumped into sales. I think you're not being 100% truthful. Let's face it. It is a lucrative industry if you can really go out there and build a book of business, right? So talking about that, what you do isn't easy. For a lot of people, it's not easy. Much less somebody who's new to the business and young. Right? I mean, I remember you going to open houses and just bringing cookies and stuff, you know, on Saturdays and Sundays. How hard was it in the beginning for you guys? A lot of rejection. How did you feel did you feel unsure about yourself? Where did that empowerment come from? Like, tell me about that.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'd say it was definitely very uncomfortable for the first 2 years probably. Yeah. So like Greg, I started as a LOA and kind of learned the business that way, and slowly started to source my own deals after I left CMP. And that's when I started doing the open houses. And like you said, going into an open house, not knowing the realtor, they get thousands of loan officers trying to solicit them every day. So I'm sure they get plenty of loan officers that walk into open houses as well.
So you have to bring new and unusual tasty cookies to differentiate
Right.
yourself.
Right.
The
It's
happy
something
cookies,
that
yeah.
makes them remember that was Mike that gave me that.
Yeah.
So hopefully that leads to a warm phone call rather than a cold call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a numbers game, right? And we both did it. We went to a lot of networking events together where Mike would be like, I'm going to this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to tag along or whatever. I didn't want to go by myself and kind of work the room, but you lean on people, so you get introduced to different people that want to help you in the business. So like one of the first people that I met was actually a title agent, which really title agents are attacking realtors and title agents attack mortgage brokers, so we'll send them refi business. So this was really something where I'm trying to get after a realtor, so why would I meet with a title agent? They're not going to provide anything for my business. But I met her. She really liked me, so she introduced me to a few realtors. That was what kind of jump-started my career. So I just said yes to everything, even if, like, immediately I didn't think there was going to be necessarily a short-term benefit, and just kept going through. But, I mean, there was a lot of rejection there, though, man.
Jim Carrey had a movie about
something like that.
Yes, man.
Yeah, but,
So, yeah, I mean, where does that come from, though, internally? Like, where do you summon the confidence to go create your own opportunities? Like, where do you think that comes from inside?
You got to have your own motivation, I would say. So for me, I think about my family. I think about my house and the lifestyle that I want to have. I want to be able to feed my kids and provide college for them and, whatever they want, their first car, just like you were for me. So
right.
For me, that's my motivation.
That.
Yeah, every single day I wake up, I think about that, and I say, I got to go do this for them.
Yeah, but I think it's what we saw, like me and you specifically, just to get like hyper focused. Like I think it's what we saw in our parents, like through athletics, which we'll get into, like baseball and all the stuff that we did, I'm sure. But like just seeing like how dedicated like you were as a father to Mikey and my dad was to me, like working all day, doing sales jobs, commission, entrepreneurship type things that are feast or famine, like seeing that and then seeing like the commitment to go to baseball practice afterwards and like work with us till 9 o'clock at night. Like it was just crazy work ethic that we both saw. And so I think it just becomes kind of second nature. We kind of grew up with that,
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. So how did the first few wins feel that you got where you got that loan and it closed, and like how did that feel? Is that empowering, or what do you feel in that moment? Like I can do this, or I got lucky and I don't know if I can.
It's a mix. I mean, I remember one specific deal that I had that was turned down by a few other banks, and I looked at it and I repackaged it a few times. And I was like, no, we have a deal here. Like this is like, they have great credit, they have the money down. Like this is just a weird situation. So I threw it into an underwriter. Like we discussed it back and forth. It took me a lot of time, something that right now I might not have as much time to do, but like at that time I didn't have any deals. So I'm like, I'm going to put everything I have into this loan. Yeah. And we got it closed. And it ended up that the agent on that was like a mega agent. And so now, I mean, since that first deal that we did, I've done 40, 50 deals with him over the last 24 months. And so it was just story. Like, that was a huge win at that time. Mm-hmm. And then it ended up being a huge, benefit. So that felt great. Yeah.
So what's the best compliment you've ever received, Mike?
I would say in the past year, I received something that really resonated with me was, Mike, I send you business because you pick up the phone, because you're always there, you answer the phone for me, and you always take care of me. So to me, that was like eye-opening. That's what I need to, I need to provide that for my brokers, for my partnerships, for my relationships to grow them. So I would say that's my biggest compliment that I received. Was
it's amazing. Answer your phone.
How easy is that, man? And people don't do it.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. It blows my mind.
It honestly. Really is like a value proposition. Like, I'm available to you. Try me. I tell people all the time, realtors, I joke with them, like once we do a deal together or two, I'm like, hey, send me some more business. Like, okay. I'm like, I'm available all the time. Try me, and then they'll text me at 9 o'clock at night. Boom, 9:01 response, Yeah. But that's the thing.
Exactly.
Like, people don't do that in this business because they're chasing so many different things that, if you're there for them, you pick up the phone.
I'm 30 years in doing what I do for a living, which is I help mortgage banks grow and attract talent, right? And whatever the case may be, whether it's production, operations, whatever. And so we've seen come into our business technology tools, right? So now we can verify somebody's volume before we ever talk to them. There's all sorts of automation and CRMs that we can use that can do drip campaigns and things like that for us, just like you. And to this day, I will say, and my partner would say it if I brought him in the room right now, the most powerful tool on my desk is that telephone. And it always will be.
Yeah.
There's no substitute.
There's no substitute. Yeah. It's not going to change.
Well, actually, there is one substitute for the telephone, and that's face-to-face. One face-to-face is worth 10 phone conversations.
Right.
And that's why I get out from behind my desk and I go to these shows and I go maintain and build relationships with people. What makes you feel inspired to be your best self?
Yeah, I mean, source of inspiration, there's a lot of things that go into that. I would say, like Mike was saying, like wanting to provide for family, just seeing what my parents did for me, all the sacrifices that they made. I just want to make them proud, like give back, be able to really, push myself to where, I'm the best version of myself, and that's for everyone that's in my life. I mean, I want to be able to, go out with friends and no, don't worry about it, guys. Like I got the tab, things like that, like from a financial standpoint, but also just like a influential standpoint. I have a loan partner, a processor, a loan officer, apprentice, and we're hiring a second loan partner now. I'm going to have four people. Yeah, I'm excited about it, man. But I'm going to have 4 people that are relying on me to like produce so that they can put like food on their family's plate. Like that feels really good to like be doing something that has impact, so just continue to try to get better every day. So.
What would you say to somebody who's in their early 20s to mid 20s trying to figure out where they want to go, maybe looking at the mortgage business but feeling intimidated maybe by the prospect of getting into into a business where there's a lot of older people? And I think you even mentioned this when you were thinking about being a financial planner. You're like, how am I going to go convince these older, almost retired guys to give me, a 20-something-year-old, their money to manage? When you look at the mortgage business, what do you tell somebody that's at a young age right now? Get in and just start making mistakes, or what would you tell them? What would be your advice?
Yeah, for me, the first thing that my boss gave me when I walked in on day one at LoanWise was Mortgages for Dummies. And he said, read this book from cover to cover, from the front to the back, every single page. When you're done, write notes, go over them, and let's talk about it. And after that, just let's dive in. Let's see what happens. So yeah, you're going to make mistakes. There's a lot to learn. Every single day, I still learn something new in this business. I don't think you can know every single thing about every single loan. There's just too many guidelines, too many regulations to understand, but you have those resources with you at all times. Like we talked about, you have your phone now.
Right.
So you have Google, you have so many resources to learn from. It seems intimidating, but just dive in.
Yeah, it's almost like having an instant advisor right there, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And as a young person, when you do have the experience and the knowledge, then it's going to be a lot easier to overcome those obstacles of being a young person, especially in the mortgage business. Like I've sat down with a lot of clients that are older, that they're 60s, they retire, and they're buying a condo. They're looking at me like, man, I've had mortgages longer than you've been alive, kind of a thing. And it's like, well, here's the information. I'm laying it out. I'm looking at, here's your option for a 5% loan, a 20% loan, if you want to do a refi, whatever. And I know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm going through it confidently. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, the whole, he's young, and the way that I carry myself with confidence helps them overlook that,
Yeah.
But I've had people, especially early on. Now I've aged a little bit in the last few years, but when we first started at CMP, man, we were young bucks, really young looking kids. And I had a few people that, I talked to or met with in person, and they're just like, I think we're gonna go in a different direction. And it might've been, maybe because I was younger, seemed inexperienced or what have you, but I didn't let that hold me back. I was like, okay, I'm gonna push on to the next one. It is what it is. I'm gonna come to an age where I'm gonna be at a certain age, and they're gonna be like, I wish he was younger. I mean, no matter how old you are, older or young, they're gonna.
I tell young recruiters when we bring them in is that, and this goes in any area of sales. If you speak from almost an apologetic tone, or you're meek, your posture is everything. It really is. You can overcome so much just by speaking confidently.
Absolutely.
And controlling the conversation, right? If you can do that, then you can get through it, and typically you'll turn people,
for sure.
But they just want to feel confident that they're making, one of the biggest decisions of their lives, that you've got them
with somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I would say on my side, for the wholesale side, working with brokers, if you don't know the answer, that's okay. Just tell them, be honest up front. Say, hey, let me get that for you. Let me get right back to you. Hang up the phone, make a call. Make 2 calls, whatever you need to do, get the answer, and make sure you call them back.
And then you get back to them.
And
a lot of people say, I'll get back to you,
that.
and they don't.
Yeah.
But you get back to them. Your follow-up is strong.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Greg, what makes a successful loan officer? Besides, obviously, answering your phone and being a good communicator.
Learning how to juggle, man.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. Like when you say becoming successful, and successful is an objective term. I mean, it's successful. I want to close 3 loans a month, and I provide a great life for my family, and I have a lot of time on my hands where I don't have to go in the office from 9 to 5. I can pick my kid up from school at 2 p.m. every day. That's successful. But if we're talking, you want to close the most loans as possible, which is what I want to define my success as right now. I really want to close a ton of loans a month. That is how can you manage chaos, and how many balls can you juggle in the air at once? Because you're always going to have an issue. Even the easy, clean deals, there's going to be something hairy or sticky on it that you got to work on. So finding a way to juggle and keep all those balls in the air, and just make sure you're keeping everyone up to date on where they are in the process, making sure that you're calling people back, answering your phone. I mean, that's the biggest thing.
What do you expect from your account executive, your wholesale account executive? What do you expect from that?
Yeah, the account executives, we have great partnerships with our AEs. So that would be the person that's working for the lender, like Mikey does, and is a support for me when I have an issue. When an account executive says, let me handle this, and even if the answer is no, if they do something timely, and it's usually for me, it's asking like, hey, I need you to rush this closing, or I need the underwriter to review this real quick, or I need you to tell me if I can get a free extension on this lock. If they tell me, hey, let me get back to you, I'll give me 2 hours or whatever, quick turn time, which, I mean, like you said, the world is becoming quick.
The same things that make you successful as a loan officer: responsiveness.
Exactly. Responsiveness, getting back quick.
Answer.
That's what you want from the AE as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What to you makes a successful loan officer? Since you're on the wholesale side, what do you expect from a good loan officer? Somebody you want to work with?
Yeah, I would say not creating chaos for the AE. So there's a way to go about the business, and there's some brokers out there that they don't really know what they're doing. They'll call me for everything. They eat up my day. It's like, hey, how do I structure this? What do you think about this? Now, I don't mind giving advice for every now and then, but some of these guys, they just don't know. Like, it's like they just said, let me just go be a loan officer.
Okay.
I'm going to broken up my.
So let's go there. Somebody young looking at the business, do you suggest they get into operations first?
Yes, operations, or I guess LOA is considered operations. But if you can find an opportunity where you can be an LOA and produce your own loans,
and an LOA is a loan officer assistant.
Yep.
Okay.
I would say that's probably an ideal situation, or
For sure.
processing like where you started would probably.
Yeah, because then you learn the business. Like you just said, that's what I was
How to
saying,
put
is
a
that you
file
see a lot of
together.
people that are great salespeople, but they don't know loans. So they're struggling, and then they're bugging you. So it's a lose-lose if you do that.
Mm-hmm.
If you come in with some experience, learning the ops side, you'll have a lot more success.
Difference Makers is powered by Verity Search. In today's competitive war for talent, they understand recruiting requires having a strong sales and marketing approach. Recruiting is not posting jobs online and waiting for unqualified people to apply. It's active, it's engaging, and it's working with people while maintaining extreme confidentiality. Their solutions and techniques are innovative and brave, but based on industry knowledge and key identification strategies. Some of the key services include strategy planning, research, marketing, prospect identification, qualification, and recruitment across all markets and geographies. If you'd like more information, please check out the website at veritysearch.com. Greg, what's the best compliment you've ever received?
The best compliment I ever received. This might be one that you're gonna cut out, but we were at Mikey's wedding and we had a few drinks, and I was over there with your dad, and we're sitting. I swear to God, this was made me feel really, really good. And we're with Jace, who we all know. Jace was an amazing athlete, got drafted by the Red Sox out of high school, and we were standing there together. And you're like, man, this guy has just got a pair on him right here, and he's pointing at me, and he's like, with the game on the line, I'm putting the ball in this kid's hands. And I'm like, that's how, and just in business too, I'm like, I want like the tough deal, the panic situation, something that you need a performer to step up. Like I want that opportunity to step up. And so, that's how I've always seen myself. Like I never shy away from an opportunity or shy away from the big moment. And for you to recognize that and make that, tell me that was pretty awesome.
Well, I made a list of your guys' strengths, so let's go there. So Mike, we'll start with you. I've got hard worker, winner, attitude, conscientious, kind, thoughtful, family, great parents.
We'll start with the last one.
That's true.
And for Greg, I've got competitor, communicator, champion, winner, attitude, family, great parents. The thing I would say about you that I remember most about both of you guys growing up in the baseball years was when we started that baseball team, we really started from ground zero. At the time, all the best players were taken. They were on other travel teams. And this is at the beginning of travel ball. Mm-hmm. And your dad called me one day and he said, "Hey, what are you going to do this summer?" And I said, "I don't know. What are you going to do?" He said, "Let's put a team together." And I remember the early years of putting that team together. We were not good, but I think we went from like worst to first in a matter of just 2 years. And these guys, these guys worked so hard. You guys, all of you guys, 2.5-hour practices 3 days a week, to the point where we went on that incredible run in the playoffs, and I think we won 7 straight games and ended up becoming state champions. And you want to talk about, I got goosebumps, but you want to talk about like work ethic and hard work and overcoming. I mean, those lessons that you learned as young athletes. And it's not just that. Like, you went on and you even played football in college, and you didn't even play football that much, right?
Yeah. Right.
So, and Mike, you worked your tail off and you got a college scholarship in baseball. And, when we were playing on that team, you were probably the smallest and undersized kid, right? But you never stop working, right? And you overcome and you find a way to succeed. And I think when you look at not just the mortgage business, but just business in general, how important are those life lessons to you? That like there's something that drives you to win.
Yeah, and I had no idea or a real appreciation for it until I was in the business world. Like, truly did not realize that not everyone was raised the same way that we were, where we not only did we see our parents very disciplined, going to work, coming and giving us their time at practice, but the discipline that was instilled in us with like, okay, you got to be committed to going to practice and training and all. I mean, the amount of hours that you train as an athlete just to get the small amount of game time is crazy. And we did that second nature. And so now it becomes easier in our business world to do that, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. At the time, you don't realize it. Like, the most important times of your life, when they're happening, you don't realize how important they are. Like, I hope that your ex-teammates and my ex-players will see this podcast someday and go, "Yeah, I played ball with those two guys," and look at them now.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Jace, one of my favorites ever. So if you could turn back time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him?
I'd say just keep working hard. I mean, I know that you don't see the big picture, but just stick to it and just believe in it, because it's going to happen for you as long as you keep working and you don't give up.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I mean, it just is crazy that, like you said, you trip into the mortgage business. Nobody seeks it out, but it's like you really
No, you dream about being an astronaut. You dream about being something else, right? But no, kids dream about being an astronaut. They dream about being president. They don't grow up with dreams of being a mortgage guy.
Right. It's true. You fall into it, but I mean, now that I'm in the business, as I'm sure Mikey can attest to as well, that we really can have an impact. We can really impact people's lives, the people that we work with, the people that we help get into a home, the brokers that Mikey is always answering their calls, helping them out. You can have a big impact on people's lives in this business.
Yeah. What's one of the most important things you've learned in your life? Let's start with you.
The power of discipline, self-discipline. It's not something that was instilled in every individual that's been, born. I mean, we were so lucky to, like you said, the last on that list that you had for both of us was great parents that, we saw good examples of that. But eventually at a certain point, every individual takes their own. At 18, 19 years old, you take your own path. Mm-hmm. And, me and Mikey had great self-discipline. I mean, how many times were there that we were in the office and talking about going to a networking event or going to an open house this weekend? And I know neither one of us wanted to do it, but we were not only accountable to ourselves and each other, but that self-discipline, being self-accountable was huge.
What's one of the most important things you've learned in your life?
I'd say work ethic and commitment. So, like talking about baseball, I didn't realize how big work ethic was until you actually commit yourself to it and you do it. So like you said, I was the smallest guy on the team. I was not a very good player at first, but I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be the best on the team. I wanted to have a shot to play college baseball. No one ever thought I was going to play college baseball. So I put my head down and worked hard, and every single day took swings, took ground balls, throwing the ball, whatever I had to do to get to where I wanted to be. So I'd say that's the biggest thing is work ethic.
Ultimately, God has a plan for your life, and you're going to figure out what that is, right? But it's your job to take the tools that He provides you with and use them, right? And I believe that. So let me ask you this. Tell me about a client that's touched your heart. Has there been anybody that's like affected you deep in this business outside of just the perfunctory actions of doing a mortgage business? Has there been a client that has touched you in a way?
I would say one of the deals I did as a loan officer before I became an account executive, this guy, he didn't have a place lined up to rent, and he had only been on commissions for 1 year. So every single loan officer that talked to him said, I can't do anything for you. But he came to me, and I said, let me check, because the guy that I was working for at the time was an encyclopedia. He knows everything. And I said, I think there's a way around this if we go Freddie rather than Fannie. Let me go see what I can do. Went over to him, talked to him. We worked the deal out and got him into a home, and he's forever grateful. He actually just called me the other day, referring me somebody, and I had to tell him the bad news that I'm no longer on that side of it. I might send it to you.
I'll take him out for lunch after this.
Yeah. How about you, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few instances of people that I've really that I've been able to help that they didn't think that they could get into a house. So that's when it's really rewarding, is when someone's been told no somewhere else, or they've been working on something for a long time and making that dream come true. Specifically, one example was, had this young girl that she didn't think she could qualify, and her mom was trying to help and co-sign and do all these different things, and they were just like, they were told no at a few different other places. We were able to get it done, structured it well, and got them closed. And I went to that closing celebration, and like they were embracing each other and like bawling their eyes out, crawling for like 15 minutes. It was, I mean, like goosebumps everywhere, just feeling like, wow, I was a huge part in making that happen. Like it just felt really good.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Let's talk about social media for a few minutes, and then we'll start to bring it down the home stretch. But you're big in social media. That's one of the first things I noticed, is that you gravitated towards right away. I even saw you shave your head one time.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I did that just to try to get another mortgage.
Just to get a loan. The things we'll do to get a loan. Yeah. How has social media changed in the business landscape today? How important is it?
I think it's huge, man. You have to have an online presence. I mean, I think about even just like how we take applications. Like if you are trying to buy a t-shirt, are you more likely to call someone and give them your credit card number over the phone, or type in your credit card information online? You're more likely to do it online. Like if you are going to get your car washed from a local detailer, you're probably going to type in Boghos Car Wash and see, hey, do they have pictures online? Do they have reviews? Things like that. If you guys don't have a website, I'm like, wait, did they just throw a sign on the door and they have a car wash? Like you have to have an online presence in some way, shape, or form. And social media is where everyone spends their time. It's where you get your news now. So
I hired
get your face out there.
I hired a social media coach a couple years ago, and the thing that he taught me most was, people aren't picking up the phone as much anymore, because every time it's an auto warranty or somebody trying to sell you solar, and they're disguising their numbers like it's a local number. And so if people don't 9 times out of 10, if they don't recognize the number that's ringing in, they don't answer. They'll let it go to voicemail. So social media is how people form opinions about you in business, and they 100%. Won't do business with you until they know who you are, what you stand for, and what you stand against, right? And that's really how you're evaluated today. How important is social media to you?
So for my world, it's funny you say that, because I'm friends with some of my brokers on Facebook, and I get sponsored ads as I'm scrolling through my feed from those brokers. Hey, you need a loan?
Yeah.
So it's funny to see that, because it is so important for those brokers and loan officers to have that
prospecting.
presence. Yeah. So for the wholesale side, like you said, it's having a website or something that they can go to and see.
But you guys, your
trust.
Brokerage is going to have a great website. You got to have something, right? You can't just be like, oh, here's a flyer and we have nothing online. You have to be online nowadays.
Yeah, and what I do, it's not so much social media as the CRM. And I don't know if you're going to ask about that question, but for me, having that presence, being able to send out a blast email to update my brokers, let them know what I have going on, let them know what my rates are, just another way to stay in touch with them.
Right, and they're official emails, right? They got like company letterhead, they've got your signature, your photo, like here's an attachment of a rate sheet or something, or brochure or whatever. Like you have to have that kind of online information built out. People don't do stuff strictly over the phone anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Who's your hero?
That's a good question. You're gonna put me on the spot like Tom Brady at the Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, I have a ton of heroes, man. A lot of people that have helped me out over the years. I mean, I think, you know, both of my parents, my mom and my dad, equally, my grandparents. I mean, just they made so many sacrifices in their life to provide for me, and that's not just one generation. You know, that's multiple generations. I've been blessed to have an amazing family. My dad was the first to graduate college in his family. He has 3 brothers and sisters, and he has a bachelor's degree, and then he went on to get a master's degree. And, you know, he's been able to provide for his family. My mom she's a country girl from Iowa, and, you know, she worked really hard, went to college, was actually like a stockbroker in the 80s, sold cell phones in the 90s when they were first big. She was, you know, a great influence, and they both built me up my whole life.
So your parents?
Yeah, I mean, big time. Like when we were kids, like how much confidence we had from our parents believing in us. I know you believed in Mikey when you said he was small, undersized on the team. You built him up to where he believed that he could do it, and that's the same thing my parents provided for me.
It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog, right?
Absolutely.
Heroes?
I mean, it's sitting right next to me. You and Mom for sure. So like you said, just the way that they built us up. I didn't realize it till I got out of college and I started working. I can't imagine working a full day, going to practice, going right to bed, getting up, doing it all over again for your son. So just to see what you guys did for me now that I've been in the business and in the business world,
I appreciate it. We can appreciate it so much more now.
You don't realize it when you're a kid. So
you think you got it all figured out when you're a kid.
If anybody younger person was looking to get into the business, would you guys be willing to be a mentor for somebody, or 2 or 3 people if they wanted to bounce ideas off you or ask advice?
Absolutely.
Pay it forward?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll put both of your names and contacts on the screen before we end this show. And you know, if any of you guys out there are thinking about joining the business, but you might feel a little bit intimidated or you're not really quite sure about how to go about it, these right here are 2 very successful young men that have started in the business from nothing and are doing quite well. So if you want some advice, maybe just some pointers about how to get started, where to get started, I wouldn't hesitate to reach out to these guys. Also, my resource will be my contacts will also be on the screen, so feel free to reach out to me as well. At this point, I think we're about done, guys. I want to thank you both for taking time out of your busy day to try to pay it forward a little bit to the people that out there that are thinking about starting a career in some form or fashion in the mortgage banking industry. It's a great business, and it provides a great lifestyle. So, guys, thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. Good to see you.